Our next guest today is Charles Metzger.
How do you?
Hi, Charles. How are you?
Very good.
I
thank you.
hear you go by Chip.
Chip, that's my nickname, yeah.
That's your next name. Tell us, if you would, a little bit about yourself. So you were in Vietnam.
I was.
What did you do? What did you do while you were there? Your job, basically, your rank.
I went, when I joined the Marines, I was going to be a tanker and an Amtrak crewman. And somehow they had a formation one day in Courthouse Bay, and me and 4 other new guys in the back of the formation. They came out and read anybody want to be a wheeled vehicle mechanic?
Uh-oh.
Everybody
Did you volunteer?
Everybody in that formation raised their hand, because they had been to Vietnam and back,
Right.
and they were getting out. They were corporals, they were whatever. I said, "Oh yeah, I can learn a trade." And who do you think went? Us new guys. We got voluntold.
Voluntold.
Yeah. So that was. I went to a school, became working on a mechanic in the trucks. 3516 was our MOS. Military Occupation, and so when I went to Vietnam, that's what we did. We started out working on our trucks in a new base, Chu Lai, which was south of Da Nang in the I Corps area, and so that's what I did for the 13 months. You know, we still in the Marines, they pride themselves in every Marine is a rifleman, so. Nobody guarded us. Nobody took care of us. We had to take care of ourselves.
Right.
So as well as working on the trucks, we stood our lines and had some interesting experiences doing that.
Yeah. So what were some of your most memorable, significant experiences that sort of stick in your mind while you were there? Something that you.
All right. So
Yeah.
one. In the Marines, when you got picked for either kitchen police or it was a 30-day stint, so you left your outfit, boom, and you were sent to the guard detachment, and now you belonged to them for 30 days. So we had exterior guard and we had interior guard. So one night on interior guard, I'm walking my post with a rifle, and it happened to be a building area for troops, very crowded. And I'm walking out the perimeter, you know, to try to keep order in that area or whatever, just to you know, be an alert. So these guys should relax. We had the guard around those areas. So I'm walking the post, and all I'm thinking about is every war movie you ever watched, the guard is walking his post at night.
Yeah.
And somebody comes behind you and slits you,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm thinking like, that's all I'm thinking. So that kept me alert.
Right.
So halfway through my post, my hours, it usually stood 4-hour posts. I see a Jeep coming up towards me, and the sergeant of guard came out. You know, we had a procedure where you had to hide, challenge them, prove you were alert, right? So I did that, went through that thing, and he says, so before he leaves, he gets back in the Jeep. He says, "Are you all right? You know, are you sleepy? Are you know?" No, I'm all right. So he says, "Well, stay awake, son, because the guard next to you just got chopped to pieces."
Oh boy.
So I said,
That made you feel.
"All right, well,
What a comfort level you have
I'm ready.
there.
I'm good."
Yeah.
Yeah. So you never know over there. It's
Right.
like, it was
So-
crazy, a crazy place.
When you're in that kind of a situation, and I think this is the thing, the essence of what we're trying to, if you would, make people understand. Very difficult. That what you just described.
Yeah.
How can you describe that feeling to someone?
Yeah. Well.
You know what it's like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even on the plane ride over there, you know, we went through what we call a staging battalion, and all we did, no matter what your job was, I mean, we had, you know, they had the air wing, they had guys who worked on planes, myself a mechanic, you know, whatever your job was, commo people, supply people, whatever. We went through 30 days before we even, and it was in California, Camp Pendleton, and all we did was go over infantry tactics. And I mean, for 30 days we were infantrymen, and you know, with a pack, climbing the foothills and around Pendleton, and then to get acclimated and because, you know, you go into a combat zone, you go into a war zone. I mean, you can't get lethargic. You can't think, oh, I'm
Right.
safe, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And I don't, and is there ever a time where you ever really feel safe?
No, well, yeah, I was nervous on the plane ride over
Yeah.
until I got back.
Yeah.
Until I got back.
No,
so,
I hear you.
Yeah, you know, and I was always what they call in the Marines. They call them a sweater because I always took the word that they gave me or the lessons they gave me. I always took it to heart. You know.
Right.
You know, some guys make light of it, whatever. But I always got kind of serious.
Yeah. I was pretty much a rule follower too.
Yeah, I mean,
you
hey,
gotta-
this is my job, and I do it the best I can. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, you know, when I'm talking to a young kid and they ask my opinion about in the service, what I think, you know, I always say, well, you know, it's a decision that can be the best decision in your life. It can be the worst.
Right.
You have to keep that in mind before you make that decision. It's, you know, it can. I had a good experience. I did the 4 years in the Marines.
Mm-hmm.
I got out and got married, and then I kind of missed the camaraderie. So I went to join the reserves, you know, and I went to the Marines first naturally, and they said, well, yeah, I got out of Sergeant E5. They said, well, we'll let you come back in, but we had to bus you to corporal. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
like, man,
No, thank you.
that don't sound good. So I was working construction at the time, and a guy, we were roofing a house, and the guy said, "You ever think of the National Guard? You know, it's kind of a state mission, and
Sure.
you know, they can get federalized." And I said, "Oh, well." So they had a program, Try One. So I asked my wife, "What do you think?" "Oh, you're always watching war movies. Well, you know, this you can do, at least go there and get paid for it." "Oh, okay." So that was she said, "All right." So I went and talked to the people, and they were going to let me keep my, you know, E5, and it was 15 minutes from my house, and I could be a mechanic again, working a motor pool. So I said, "Oh, that sounds okay."
Yep.
So I tried one. I woke, and it was I signed for 1 year. So I went to bed that night, and I woke up, and the radio was blaring, and they had the Berlin crisis. They were. I'm thinking like, oh my Jesus,
Yeah.
here we go again.
Right.
But and then those early, that was in I'd say 70, 71.
Mm-hmm.
And I got, and the reserves were a place that had a bad reputation as
Right.
far as a place to hide
Right. Yeah.
and beat the draft. And so, but I joined, and I stayed like 26 years. So I retired. I retired as a first sergeant.
Good for you.
But I did about 8 years in that unit, and I ran into an outfit in Fort Drum from Fall River that was infantry. So I said, you know what? Yeah, let's do that. So I did that. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And I did, the big thing then was training for the Ruskies. We're gonna meet the Ruskies at the Fulda Gap.
Okay.
I mean, the Russians are in the news now every day. I mean, to me,
Right.
this is no surprise. They haven't been our friends since 1946.
Yeah.
You know, if you study history at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, like I say, it was a good experience for me. I tell people that, the kids, don't be afraid of it. You know, I mean, it's the only place that a kid, well, look at yourself. You enlisted as enlisted.
Yep. I
And
enlisted
now
first.
you retired as a colonel. So
Yes.
I mean, you're limited in the military by your
By
ambition
yourself.
and by yourself.
That's right.
I mean, I think it can be a great experience if you don't. And I have a son that, like my father before me, I was horrified when he told me he wanted to be a Marine. But now he's up for sergeant major. You know, he's got 24 years and counting. He loved it. He loves it. I got him talked into trying the Guard for 1 year in another company, infantry. I said, if you come back to me in a year and you say you still want to be a Marine, I'll get you transferred.
Yeah.
Thinking that he's going to say, I'll go to college. I'll do this and go to college. But he said, no, in a year, and they loved him,
Yep.
and he did really well. And then the following year, so he went to Army basic training in Benning, infantry, and then the following year he went to Marine training in Paris Island. And now he stayed with it. He enjoys it, and he's got a great career going.
Let me ask you this: what would you say the one time that sticks in your mind the most? That I know with everybody, it's hard to think about. That's why I sort of had you think about it earlier. What was the one thing that sort of sticks in your mind the most about the time that you were in the service? Something that you kind of won't forget.
All right. When I did my tour in Vietnam, and they flew us back to, we landed in a base near San Francisco. And then as we got off the plane and filed out, all these protesters. And I'm thinking like, wow, man, you know what I mean? And that was early in the war. I was there early, very early. I was there 66, 67. That, I don't think like, what happened? Now I'm being viled by my countrymen,
Right.
who sent me over there in the first place.
Right. Right. So a little bit of. Do you still feel a little bit of anger and resentment towards that?
Well, I not as bad as some of my buddies. I have buddies that had horrible experiences. I have a corpsman. He still has PTSD. I fished with a guy. He got blown. The guy in front of him, a fairly new guy, and he bent down off the trail. And my buddy behind him said, "Don't!" And just the next thing you know, he wakes up in a hospital. That kid was just nothing left. Nothing left.
Was it a mine?
Yeah, it was a booby trap on the
trap.
side of the. They took everything that the unexploded ordnance, and they used it against us and stuff. Hey, they were fighting just as hard for their country as I was for mine. So.
And it's it's a good way that you see that, because I think people think that military people are just like die hard. Our country doesn't. Okay, we're all that. And each country is trying hard to win the war.
Yeah.
And in some ways you have to. It's easier, I think, to demonize people.
Yeah, and that's kind of like goes along with when our training, kill,
Right.
blah, 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 BC. Yeah, they demonize enemies. Because you think about it, most American kids, right? You're not taught that. You're taught, thou shalt not kill. Get along with everybody.
Right.
I know that's another thing that blows my mind. The way the kids are, they're in college now and they're being indoctrinated. Oh, nobody wants to listen to the other side, and then come to your own conclusion. Oh, that's horrible. I think. You see with all the shootings and stuff that's going on in the well, that's crazy.
It's interesting, after all that we've kind of been through, I tend to, when I talk to a lot of the veterans, I've never met people that are more neutral. And you would think that it wouldn't be that way, but I think we've seen things.
Nobody is against war more than a veteran who's been through it. My dad was horrified when I told him I wanted to be a Marine. Oh, my
father
God.
cried. Oh, Semper Fi, by the way.
Yeah, yes. Want to hear my Air Force story?
I do want to hear your Air Force story.
All right.
So long as you're not teasing like my son does. He says, you're really not military.
Yeah, well, that's what they call you bus drivers.
That's right. That's right.
But we go through that infantry training, so we're all gung-ho. They fly us. That's the other thing. They fly us. We're over there, and then they fly you back. Boom. Yeah. It's like overnight. So we had to go. We flew from Northern Air Force Base to Anchorage, Alaska. Yep. We landed. We got out, and some of the guys, they plugged in their music boxes. They're dancing, and they're listening to their music. And we get back loaded back on. We fly to Tokyo, land. We come off the plane and to stretch our legs, and the first thing that hit was the humidity there. It's like unbelievable. You could hardly breathe. So you go to the terminal, but it was just they just refueled the plane, and they're commercial jets now. It was stewardesses on them. So Now we fly to Kadena Air Force Base,
Yep.
right? They land. All right, we get off, we file off the plane, and they said, all right, close to chow time, mate, go find them, the mess hall's over there, you know, so, and it's all Marines on this flight. So we go to the mess hall, we find a mess hall, we all line up, queue up, you know, like we're used to.
Yeah.
We're standing in line, and we're looking for the trays. We were used to eating off these metal trays, so we're looking for the trays. And this little Okinawan girl, she comes running over to us. Oh, no, no, you sit down, we wait on you. I looked at my buddy and said, boy, did we screw up. Wait on you.
That's right.
We're- I mean, actually, you know,
Yeah.
I said, oh, man. Yeah, so.
Yeah, the Air
hey,
Force was
but
the way to
it's
go.
they're technicians. You have to take care of them. You have to, you
Right.
know, they're working on $1 million. In the my last tour in the Marine Corps was in Hawaii, of all places.
Oh, lucky
And
you.
I was a ground troop that I went to. I was assigned to. It was the 1st Marine Brigade, and it was half infantry and half air wing, fighter pilots. So. It was like I died and went to heaven. It was like I was in the training section, and all I did was they changed my MOS to chemical warfare. So I ran like the gas chamber drills
Right.
and keep people up on that. And in Vietnam, we used tear gas somewhat, but it wasn't like fast forward to the 90s, going over to the guys that went over to Desert Storm. That was
Right.
the big concern, you know,
Yes.
with the weapons of mass destruction and the biological weapons and the poison gas, the nerve agents. So yeah, so I had a pretty good tour, and I was all set to I was thinking about staying in, actually, because I had some of my buddies were. One kid was in a recon. I would think that sounds pretty exciting. You know, I'd like to do that maybe. But I was waiting for orders to go home, and then when they finally came in, they said, "Hey, your orders are in." I went up to the company office, and I said, "I'm going home, huh?" He said, "No, you're going to Westpac, which is Vietnam." And the two guys that were handing me the orders, one guy was a gunny sergeant and one guy was a staff sergeant, and they had just one little ribbon on them. I don't know how many years they're in, at least 10 or 12. And they hadn't been the first time. They were going to send me for second. So I decided I should maybe get out.
Yeah.
But
You know, and this is just interesting. So you think you're getting out, getting ready to go home, you're going up in the orders.
yeah.
I mean, this is the hard part. You know, what did that
Yeah,
feel like when
yeah.
somebody said,
And like I say, I was thinking about staying in. But that was
Yeah.
like a shock. Boom, you know?
right,
Yeah, so, and I said to the guys, and they said, "Ah, it's no problem. All you got to do is to refuse orders." I'm thinking like, refuse orders? I
know.
volunteered for the
That's a
whole,
little
I
bit-
volunteered for the Marines, I volunteered for Vietnam.
right.
And
kind of
now,
goes against
now I
your
have
grain
to,
a little, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of like, that was kind of like,
Yeah,
I don't know, this struck me the wrong way, so I,
sure.
yeah.
And sometimes you get that point that a lot of people say that's when you know.
Yeah, I've had it.
It's
I've had it
just,
for a
okay,
while.
this I can only
Yeah.
take, you know, and this is not making any
yeah.
sense. If, for somebody, for the younger folks that are maybe going to hopefully come and watch some of this, what would you think is something, because they don't understand.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, no matter how much we can talk about it and try to explain those things that not even we can understand in our
Yeah,
head. How would you explain to someone in the future, what would you take away or want them to know about your military experience?
Well, like I say, it's a decision that has to be made for you. They did away with the draft because forcing people to do that into that lifestyle, not a good thing, you know. But for a young kid who really is not ready doesn't think he like my own son, was sick of school, wanted to do something exciting. It's the only place, the military to me, is someplace where you can go, you can go and be a leader right away. I mean, yeah, you start off maybe a year, 2 years, you work your way through the ranks, but and then some of the people, where can you go and go from just a snuffy know-nothing, and after a couple of years, you can apply yourself. Now you can get a college education,
Right.
paid for.
Yeah.
In my son's case, he has a degree. He's a kid who hated school when he first went in, and now he has a degree. He's got a career, and he's doing well. My sister's two boys, they both one in the Army, one joined the Navy as an enlisted kid. Now right now he's in charge of all the jet the maintenance of all the jet Hornets, the fighters for the Navy on the East Coast, and he's a lieutenant commander.
Right.
Yeah, so that's that's equal to a major in the Air Force. And he's still in. He has a great career. Yeah. So that's what I would tell a young kid. It is a commitment. It could, you could be you're putting your life in someone's hands. You're putting your life on the line. You have to have that in the back of your mind. If that's not for you, don't even bother. You don't have to. There's no draft. Go to college. Go to trade school. Do something else. But if you want a career where you can, as a young second lieutenant with a good NCO to back you up,
That's right.
you can be a leader of men. You can run something right away.
And I think that's one of the difficulties that I've heard military people when they get out of the military, that they have difficulty transitioning, because
Yeah.
I think that's another thing that people that aren't in the military don't understand, and they say, oh, hire veterans. That when we come out, even after a couple of years, our leadership skills are equal to someone who's been in a company for 10 to 15
Yeah,
years.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
yet we're not going to get that job because it's just not going to happen that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of a disconnect, a dissonance between, our veterans coming out, why a lot of them do have difficulties in the workforce and getting transitioned in the workforce.
I recently read one of our congressmen, or congresswoman, I believe, said, "Don't hire a vet because they're broken." Yeah, maybe, but
Yeah.
maybe we can give a little help to the guy or girl.
Yeah.
So.
And why do you think that, why do you think that the veterans, I think to me, the veterans that need the help the most are the ones that aren't going to go get that. And I think there's some real significant, rational in their mind reasons why they don't do that. What are your thoughts on that?
You mean to get the help?
Yes.
That they need, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big problem now. I have a buddy that's we ride motorcycles, and so there's an organization based in Texas, 22 Kill, and that's all about seeking help for the veterans, with PTSD or whatever. Most people, there's only a small percentage of the military that are actually frontline troops that actually day to day are worried about their existence and see some horrible things, and they have to deal with that. They put that aside, and it's a tough thing.
Yeah.
Tough
Well,
thing.
that's the thing. If I had to reach into my head and say, and I used to be a behavioral health specialist in the military
Yeah.
before that I learned that the brain,
Yeah.
our brains have to try to figure out things that will make absolutely no sense and would be so vicious and so incomprehensible to most people.
Yeah.
And yet we have to, in our brains, put them in a place. What do you do with that? Something you can't explain to other people.
It's a horrible problem. I've met guys where they've lost their sons through that, and they have no idea. In the military, bears a little bit of responsibility because it used to be in my day. Now, hopefully, this is changing. Where if you go and say, with these bad feelings, it was like a career ender.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that's kind of horrible. So they bear responsibility when it comes to that. I'm having troubles. Nobody wants to admit.
Right.
Nobody wants to admit
hasn't
that,
changed.
I'm not gung-ho anymore. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, if you did, like you did go to see a doctor to talk to him, oh man, it's like, oh Christ.
Yeah. I think that while you're inside, but I do know one of the difficulties was when some of the guys were coming home, younger guys now, the word gets around, don't say anything, because if you say something, they keep you on post, and
Yeah,
you want to go home and see your family.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
They want to go home and see their families, and they know that if they say, I'm having a problem,
Yeah, yeah.
They're not
They're
letting-
in lockdown,
they're
pretty
in
much.
lockdown.
They're in, you know, and like I say, it was a career ender. Oh man, the guy
Yeah.
can't. Or you know, you have some of the senior NCOs or whatever, old school guys. Well, even the transition with when I joined the Guard, I was in the signal, the 126 signal, 109 signal. It changed to 109, 126. But we were the first unit in the Massachusetts National Guard that had women. And
Really?
yeah, I mean that's crazy to think
is
about
crazy.
today. I mean the
Especially
whole
Marines.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Marines
Well, this was in the National Guard.
Okay.
It was a 26th Division, Yankee Division.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So yeah, and that was well like 70
Yeah.
in the 70s.
Right.
You know, and it's come a long way since
Right.
then. There was like stories both. You know, I saw both sides of it.
Sure.
You know, but.
You know, I know when I
But
first came in.
and now recently I talked to my son about that because when the Marines were thinking about putting the women in combat arms,
Oh, yeah.
that was a big you know from the
Yeah.
highest. We don't want no we can't do that. But if they can do it, if they finally were forced, hey, that's the way it is. So. Well, they said we're not going to lower our standards, and if they can make it, fine. If they can't,
That's the way it should be.
Then I don't want to hear any complaints. You know.
Correct.
So I think the one or two infantry officers,
Yeah.
like my son says, Dad, they can make all the changes they want, but some of these rednecks they're not going to go with that.
No.
Because that's the way they were brought up. So I mean,
Right.
it's a huge, social experiment, and it's a place. But I mean, hey, it wasn't that far back. When Truman desegregated the armed
Right,
forces, so it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You have to change with the times. You have to,
I think the military's, and you say it's a social experiment, and exactly that. I find that the military is a microcosm of what goes on in society.
Exactly, yes.
And I think we've done a damn good job.
Yeah, yeah. I think we've done an excellent job.
Exactly. When you have a goal to stay alive, all the rest of that stuff goes away.
Yeah, yeah.
You kind of get over. I don't care what the color somebody's skin
and the
is.
horrible part is, about my time in the Marines, now 69, 68, in Hawaii, they had the racial riots. In Lejeune they
Right.
had KKK meetings in the barracks. They had, Black Power. I mean, the Vietnam War took a huge toll on the military as far as, people not getting together and so
Right.
hopefully we come a long way. But now we got the colleges becoming indoctrination camps to our youth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not black and white. It's like there's got to be some gray area in there. We have to learn to agree to disagree.
It's funny. It's just, and I don't say funny, it's just an observation, and we just had another Marine here, and it's exactly what he said. And that would be, and I know that, I say exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
That when you have those kind of experiences with all different cultures and of people, and you can see with your own eyes that when you reach across the table, and you have to go to sort of something, a higher calling, which is, I want to stay alive. I want the person next to me to trust me.
Yeah.
I want to take care. It doesn't matter when you look side to side what color they are, what their sexual orientation.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter as long as that we take care of each other. And I think that's what we learn.
Yep. And it's a shame that once we got back, that we reverted back to our separate
Right.
entities or put up the racial barriers again or whatever.
Sure.
But hopefully we can learn. But that saddened me. I never thought that the divide that was in the country during the Vietnam War, I never thought we'd see that again.
Yeah.
But here again we are.
Right.
Politically, we can't talk to each other. Congress, to me, hasn't been able to do their job for a good 10, 12 years because it's Democrat, Republican, and they're not going to,
Well, I think I think they're focusing on the wrong things.
Yes, I mean,
They need a mission, and the mission should be,
exactly,
right?
the mission
should be to
accomplishment.
make
That,
this
you get
country
that from the military.
Yeah.
People, when you
They need a mission.
when you say mission,
Right.
yeah, that the goal was accomplish the mission. You took care of your men, but you also had to,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what we're missing out on
I
is
know.
that,
Yeah.
taking care of each other should be the thing that we do the most.
And then the social media. Oh my God. Huh? I think that just fuels the fire sometimes.
Oh, sure. Sure. Yeah, things have definitely changed. There are a lot more military people running for office now.
Yes. Yeah. And yes. Yeah.
I think I sort of,
Crenshaw from Texas.
I love him.
I think he's potential president. I would think. Yeah, I mean, and he some of the things that happened to him, where he was on social media and on the shows because of his eye,
Right.
call him a pirate. I mean, God, man, you know what I mean?
But he handled it well.
He didn't explode. He
didn't
just.
flinch. Yep.
I mean, that's special ops. You have to think. You can't get mad. You have to think. You have to think.
Yeah. So I think and we talk about some of these things, but what are these skills that maybe you think that in terms of the military that you can come out with and say, because I've been in the military, I benefited because of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Re-ask the question because we lost audio sync on this
Oh,
camera.
okay.
So just re-ask it and then we can keep proceeding.
Okay. So we talked about a lot of things, and one of the things, what do you think that your military experience, what are the benefits in dealing with, and we've talked about social issues and so forth, getting along with people, your perspective on life. What do you think, how do you think the military impacted, and in what way?
Well, just by teaching me that if you're in charge, you have to. It's mission accomplishment. I mean, I've worked construction after that. I mean, we had a mission to do. We build a house, frame a house. You had to work together. I always wanted one job one time where some of the guys, it was union, non-union, and they were and they were arguing and they were fighting. I'll never forget this guy. He's from Attleboro. He was the architect on the job, and he says, guys, he just came on and says, guys, we can't get along and build this building. We might as well pack up our tools and leave. And so he was right. And I said, yeah, I mean, having my military experience, I mean, I was exactly right. We got a pretty good lesson in life right there from that man, and which I already knew. I mean, from the military. I mean, you have to put aside your differences. You have to do the job.
I think people, that's what they focus too much on, is their differences, and they almost celebrate their differences, where we tended to celebrate what we could do together.
No, that's.
And you could accomplish anything when we work together.
I mean,
The things that got accomplished, and I'm sure you have many stories of things that you saw when people did work together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, working, even as a mechanic, I mean, we'd have to go out, we cover vehicles that were blown. We used them, we hooked them up, brought them back. The roads were all mined. You'd go down the road one day, and then you come back down and you hit a mine because they'd plant stuff there for us at night. I mean, I've had in my family, my sister married a Marine, and he was in Quezon. I was the first guy to volunteer, jump up, go, and it wasn't that bad yet. It was early on in the war.
Right.
Da Nang was a big base, and that's why I went from being a tanker or Amtracker, because they needed to sustain the force. Mm-hmm. So logistics was a big thing.
Right.
And so I got tied up in that. So okay, I did my job. I mean, I didn't argue. You do what you're told, and that's your job. You do it the best you can, no matter how hard it is or whatever. And yeah, Drew went, he went, and he was in Khe Sanh during the siege, 77 days. They got bombed every day, and the lead up to the Tet Offensive.
Sure, yeah.
That was a kind of a diversion, you know. Everybody's focusing on that, and they snuck in VC and NVA forces south, and staged in areas by the key cities and towns in Vietnam. 1968, my cousin from Philadelphia, who I met in Pendleton on his way over, and he was in the Battle of Hue. He got hit bad. Both his legs were opened up. He got hit 3 times. Patched up, go back. Patched up, go back. That was during the Tet Offensive. That was the last battle that they recovered, and the VC were totally wiped out. You know, as far as down south, the NVA had to meet us on our own terms now, where we could fix them and destroy them and win the war. But yet, the news media, the people that were protesting, that was like, and when Uncle Walter Cronkite come on the television and says, we're at a stalemate, that lost the war for us right there. I mean, when if he wasn't behind it, then nobody could. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I don't know if we learned anything from that lesson, because
We learned how not to do.
We're stuck in Afghanistan,
Yeah.
in the Middle East.
I think we learned how not to do things.
Yeah,
there.
hopefully.
Yeah.
You're either gonna do it, accomplish the mission, or don't even get
Well,
involved.
there you go.
Save yourself 58,000 guys.
Right. Right. And you know, it's funny that no matter how much the technology changes, of course, you know, I'm Air Force and big technology and space and so forth, the war is always, and I say this, always going to come down to
Yeah, boots on the ground.
boots on the ground. Somebody, like I said, the wrestling match, you know, eye to eye, mano
Yeah,
to mano,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And it always will.
Yeah, and I don't know. It could be the scourge of the human race. I mean, all these years, General Mattis, the ex defense secretary, he said it. We've been doing this. You got to study history, boys, because we're not doing anything different than the ancient Romans.
Right. You know, I said, as long as there's somebody's got something that somebody else wants,
Yeah.
there will always be.
Geez, I was so happy when all that training in the Guard was to meet the Russians, and save Europe and all this. And when they went belly up, right, when it busted apart and went, I'm thinking, oh, thank God.
Yeah. People don't realize that they fell apart.
Now we've got terrorists to worry about.
Yeah.
And that ideology.
Right. It's
Man,
always
so
something.
I don't know. I think we're doomed.
Yeah.
We're doomed to fight about silly things, man.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So.
Well, thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to, say that you haven't said? I mean, and we're talking. People going to hear this and listen to this, and
Yeah.
any parting words that you'd like
Yeah,
to?
my parting words is I'm 72 years old. I'm at the end of my getting down to the end of the journey. I just hope that people can get together and agree to disagree. Instead of being so vile with each other. I mean, in Congress right now, is not giving the people a good example of that.
That's right.
Jesus, I
I
wish they
agree
could do
with
that to
that. Yeah,
accomplish
it's
something.
not.
Look, we have health care issues. We have, the wars. We have. God, if we can't get along with each other, how do we expect to get along with the world
Right.
as a whole?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
All right, yeah, you're welcome.
And thank you for
You're quite
coming
welcome.
in. I
Okay.
think this is very important.
Yes,
so,
it is.
Yeah.
Pass it on. I don't know.
Yeah, no, thank you so
All right.
much. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.